Welcome to another Lewisburg Community TV. Welcome to Tertulia.
A bookshop like no other.
And here we are in our bookshop. Finally, we opened this week on Monday. It was just so nice, so delightful to have the door open, music on, people coming in.
Sun was shining.
Yeah, we have our screen up, we have gloves. Yeah, people are confident to touch the books and to browse, and it's been absolutely lovely. And this week, of course, we managed to get some new books in because the wholesalers are back in action, so that's good too. Tonight, on our show, we're going to have two best-selling Irish authors. Jo Spain, her latest book, Dirty Little Secrets. Jo's going to be telling us about that book. And Liz Nugent, we're going to be talking to Liz, and I'm going to read a little piece from the prologue of her book, Our Little Cruelties. So they're coming up. So what have you been reading or finished this week, Neil?
Well, I've read 10 minutes, 38 seconds in this strange world.
That's Elif Shafak.
Yeah, a fantastic book set in Istanbul in modern times, and just incredible. She brings Istanbul to alive and
a great story.
A great story, but kind of hard, harrowing, slightly harrowing, but brilliant. Absolutely, she's a fantastic writer. She was up for the Booker Prize with this one, so I recommend that 100%. And I just got this in yesterday. Neil Hegarty, his latest book. He's an Irish author, and he's going to come on the show hopefully next week.
That's his second book.
It's his second book, and it's about it's set in the 1800s, and it's about an artist who paints her own shroud. So I'm looking forward to reading this, and it's available in the bookshop if anybody's interested.
Yeah.
And
yeah, so a couple came in. I finished off a couple of mine. The Flat Share, Beth O'Leary, and Theatre for Dreamers. I spoke about them before. Amazing summer reads. Just enjoyed them so much. This one came in, and I've been after this for a while. It came out just as shutdown was happening. It's Marion Lee, A Quiet Tide, an Irish author. It's her debut novel. It's very unusual. It is based in the early 1800s in Cork and Dublin. It's about a female botanist. It's historical fiction, but based on facts as well. So I'm dying to read that. That's my favourite genre. Also, we've had Linda LaPlante, who's going to come out, well, onto our show and hopefully to the shop at some stage too. Her latest novel, Buried, is introducing a new character, a new detective called Jack War. And Karen Slaughter says about Linda LaPlante, practically invented the thriller. And she writes amazing books, and they're very popular in the shop. Two other unusual books we've had in this week. Again, I was after this for a while, by Adrienne Duncan. Love Notes from a German building site. Kind of an unusual title, but it is a great book about language, living in Germany, and it's kind of a meditation on that being away from home Irishness. I think a lot of us can relate to that, and it's a love story too. So looking forward to that one. This is an old favourite of mine. I thought I'd introduce on the show this evening. The Moral Imagination by a guy called Jean-Paul Letterac. It's the art and soul of peace building, and it's an amazing book about the psychology of peace and how we do peace and what it is and what the potential is for peace. And I think it's so relevant with everything that's going on in the world today, and I think we all need to read a book like this. So that's Jean-Paul Letterac. So should we go over to Liz?
Over to Liz, yeah.
Yeah, and we'll hear a little bit from Liz Nugent.
Hello, it's Liz Nugent here. I'm in Dublin, wishing I was in Westport, wishing I was browsing through Tertulia books, and I just want to pay tribute to Tertulia books. They opened last July, and I guess probably most of their income would come from tourist season, which probably hasn't really happened this year because of the thing that must not be mentioned. But they are open for online sales, so you can ring and order any book you want. I mean, you don't even have to order this one if you don't want to. I mean, if you do want to, that's fine, but if you just want to order any book, you could give them a call or get onto them online and see if they have it in stock. So the people who run Tertulia books are, let me look up the names, Breed Conroy and Neil Paul. So if you can, please support your local bookshop. Funny enough, I would always have loved Westport, and it was when I was there on holidays about 6 years ago, before I started writing Skin Deep, which is my third novel, that I decided I was going to set part of a book there. So there's a good chunk of Skin Deep that is set in Westport, and that gave me an excuse to go back a few times for research purposes, because it's such a beautiful town. And every time I've been there, my husband and I, we've always kind of driven away saying, you know what, we didn't meet a single bastard in Westport, not one. Because usually, you know, when you go to towns, wherever, you come across somebody who's a bit off, or somebody who's a bit odd, or somebody who's not welcoming. But in Westport, every time there's a welcome. And there is a welcome for you in Tertulia books. And long may they prosper, may they get through this pandemic, and may they prosper ever after. So buy your books there, Westport people, and I will be there as soon as the lockdown is lifted and I can get there. I will be going for a weekend to Westport, and I will be popping in there to say hello to readers and to pick up a few books myself. And I hope you do the same. Thank you.
Okay, thanks Liz. And Bree, you're going to read a little piece
Yeah,
from the
I'm
book?
just going to read a little bit from Liz's new book, Our Little Cruelties. The first bit, again, is very relevant for today. We have flown the air like birds and swum the sea like fishes, but have yet to learn the simple act of walking the earth like brothers and sisters. So she quotes that at the beginning from Martin Luther King. And this is the intro, which I loved in the book. This sort of prologue sets the book up. All three of the Drum brothers were at the funeral, although one of us was in a coffin. 3 is an odd number, so there had always been 2 against 1, although we all switched sides regularly. Nobody would ever have described us as close. As the service began, I became tearful. Without ever realizing it, I had inherited my mother's acting abilities. My living brother and I stood side by side at the top of the crematorium while people lied to us about what a brilliant man our brother had been, at all the usual meaningless cliches. His death was sudden, horrific. The investigation was quick and conclusive. I was not a suspect. I had a sense of freedom and relief I hadn't felt in quite a while. I didn't expect that this air of serenity would last, but I thought I would enjoy it while I could. My surviving brother was unreadable to me. Maybe he was thinking of our brother's smashed and broken body. Still, even he must have known this outcome was for the best. Daisy sat in the pew behind us. She seemed not to be aware of her surroundings, fidgeting and whispering to herself. I caught my brother's eye as her babbling became audible and people began to notice. He reached out and quickly asked her to join us. That reaching out of his hand made me shudder momentarily. She seemed to return to reality and moved to stand between us without any argument. We both attempted to put a proprietorial arm around her, but she shrugged us off. We brothers looked at each other. The old rivalry resurfaced. And then you begin. It's intriguing. I've started it, so I'm really enjoying it so far. Thank you, Liz. And now we're going over to
Joe Spain.
And talk a little bit about Dirty Little Secrets, my standalone from last year that's out in paperback this month. What can I say about Dirty Little Secrets? It is probably up to now, because I've got a really special book coming out next year called The Perfect Lie. Dirty Little Secrets is probably the favourite book of mine that I've written, and also the hardest book. I love the characters in it, but I put a lot of characters in, and it made it very difficult because when you're writing a book with that many different characters, you've got to make them all very distinct and unique and likeable and unlikable in equal turn. And of course, that's not as easy to do as it sounds. You should give it a try sometime. But what really worked for me with Dirty Little Secrets was that I did introduce different perspectives. What I kind of wanted to do was, when the police come to interview a group of people who've been at a scene, they'll often hear contrasting statements about what's just happened. Say if they turn up for 2 neighbours having had a fight over something, and both neighbours will have their very distinct, unique perspectives about what's after happening in that exchange. And it's up to the police to kind of garner the truth from what they're being told. And in Dirty Little Secrets, Olive Collins is found dead at the very start of the book She's been dead for 3 months. She lives in a closed, gated, exclusive community, and the police just cannot fathom how her death could have gone unnoticed and unremarked on for 3 months. So they start asking questions, and we hear the neighbours' perspectives of Olive at the same time as we hear her voice from beyond the grave, where she's speaking about how the neighbours treated her. And it's up to almost a reader to be like the policeman or woman, where they're judging, okay, who's telling the truth here? Who is kind of biased? Who has an opinion that doesn't fit with what we're hearing? And at the very end, we kind of realise that, well, it's not that people are lying, or well, in some cases they are, or even exaggerating. It's just that their perspectives are different. And Olive thinks she's one way, and her neighbours think she's another way. And it looks like people had a lot of reasons to kill her. And I think she even realises that as we move towards the end of the book, people might have wanted to kill her. I'm going to read you just a little bit of the book. This is when somebody first moves into the community. So this is kind of how Olive starts to perceive these people as they're moving in, and it gives a little bit of a glimpse into how Olive's mind works. Chapter's Olive, and this is house number 4. When Stu Richmond moved into number 1, it was very exciting. In a country of B-list celebs, he was a shining star because he'd made it in the States. The man who'd launched many a career and garnered millions in the process. He was more famous than half the bands he'd founded, probably aided by the fact that they had a habit of crashing and burning when the egos properly landed. I insisted on calling him Mr. Richmond. I did it partially because I was old-fashioned, but if I'm honest, mainly to annoy him. He was one of those people that just provoke the rebel in you. Stu fitted the image he was trying to project, my book. And that image was of a man that wasn't out of place with a girlfriend who was younger than his adult son, a man who had a red Porsche in the driveway, a man who routinely flew Southside, and God bless him, a man who had a personal trainer and hair plugs. First the girlfriend departed, then Mr. Richmond headed back to his US home. The charming countryside and fabulous withered vale lost its allure over the course of one damp winter. It was George's turn to live in the mini mansion. George was far quieter than his father. A real lone wolf, isolated even, you might say. We were such a small community, it was a terrible waste. At first I thought he might be gay and a little shy for it. It was cliched, I know, but he was young, handsome, kept the exterior of his home immaculate, and I never saw a girl call to his house. Never saw a woman on his arm. That summer, I stuck a pride sticker in the sitting room window to show some solidarity. Maybe that was all he needed, some outreach. I wanted to see if he'd do the same. He didn't. It turned out George wasn't gay. George was something else altogether. So Olive's making up her mind about George, and he's only landed in the estate. It's out in paperback at the moment. All the shops are stocking it, and they're doing their best to get it into your hands despite COVID. So I hope you pick it up and that you enjoy it. I hope books are keeping you as much company as they're keeping me. Well, what else do we have to do between books and Netflix? But there are somewhere for us to go when we can't leave the house. Isn't that what we always say? Thanks so much for reading any of my books already, and thanks for being such a good supporter of bookstores, and long may it last. Bye for now.
Thanks, Joe.
That's Joe's book, Dirty Little Secrets.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Joe.
Lovely. That's it.
That's it for this week. So we say thanks to Joe and to Liz for coming on our show, and thanks to all the authors who've promised to do us pieces and who've interacted with us during COVID, and all the amazing books that we have in the shop.
And thanks to our new customers that have been coming in.
Yeah, and who have supported us again through this difficult time, and we look forward to seeing you all in the shop.
Okay.
Take care.
Goodbye.